Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Open eCry market commentary for the week of July 2nd. My name is Toby Gennaro from Trade with Precision, and I'll spend the next couple of minutes just walking you through the charts on some of the major U.S. indices, and we'll take a look at some currencies and commodities in terms of what might be happening here in the next 3 to 5 days. Okay, so moving right to the S&P 500 and looking at some of the higher time frames here, we'll try to get a gauge on what the markets might be doing this week and see if we can find any trade setups or kind of get a direction on the markets for the week. And a candle here that we've been looking at for quite some time since the middle of the month was looking pretty bullish. Got this monthly candle right here that just closed out last week on Friday. And as the market was in a position where if there was bad news coming out of Europe and the market closed down at the end of last week, this would have been a very bearish candle. And if there was good news, the market was going to close up, and this was going to be a very bullish candle. And so we got some of that news out of Europe late in the week, and the market shot up quite a bit. And so we closed out this monthly candle very bullish, and we're actually getting a break of that high beginning the new month here. So we're right in and amongst the 10 and 20 period moving average, and it looks to be just like essentially the third pullback here to then start to push back up to those highs up around that 1400 level. As we start to move down to some of the other time frames, we can see the trend here building on the weekly chart, and we actually have a crossover the moving averages, but we're starting to get some this is actually the second rejection candle that we've had here, so we'll be looking to anticipate those moving averages crossing back up and then starting to move higher. We've got a break of that high from last week already on Monday, and then as we move down to the daily chart, then we can see the break of that level very clearly. 1357 was the level last week, and then we're just clearly broke up to up around 13. I believe it was 1360. And we'll see where we go from there this week. But you can see from the daily chart that we obviously have a higher high in place. We have a higher low, another higher high, higher low again, and then we just put in another higher high right there. So we're in an obvious uptrend. The markets are still a little bit skittish, very news driven. This isn't the ideal chart structure we'd like to see. We'd like to see more of a smoother trend, more controlled pullbacks in the price action. But we're getting, based on the news, we're getting some major swings in the price action. But nevertheless, it is an uptrend, and so it's definitely worth trading. But we just want to make sure that we're getting our entries at some significant levels with good support levels to trade off of. As we move down to some of the other time frames here, like the 480, we can see the break of those most recent highs. We've got a little bit of a rejection candle at the top here, so we may be getting a pullback down into the moving averages, and we want to start to look for some of those support levels where we can start to look to get long. And it's going to be difficult in the foreseeable future trading because the markets are really news driven, and so if we get good news out of Europe, the markets are going to shoot up. If we get bad news, the markets can break down fairly quickly. But we do want to stay with the overall trend technically that the charts are leading us with, and so we just want to be able to get in on these pullbacks and look for some of those trend flow setups coupled with some support and resistance, 50% Fibonacci retracements, those kinds of things to try to give us our best opportunities for a clean entry into the markets. So that's really what we're looking at on the S&P. We're looking to break higher. We were flirting with this level here at 1340 for some time. We broke up through that and then got into the next level of congestion up here, up around that 1355, 1357 level. And so we've moved up past that up through 1360. So we'll look to see if we can start to get back up to some of these highs. 1380 more than likely is going to be some of the next levels of resistance if we can get up that high. So just be looking for some of those pullback scenarios this week, and then for some of those trend flow setups on some of the intermediate time frames. And then taking a look at some of the small caps here on the Russell 2000 charts. On the monthly chart, we have the exact same setup, nice bullish candle there setting up in the buy zone on this monthly chart with all the moving averages crossed up, looking to move higher. Good trend development setup going higher here on the weekly chart. And then what I really like here on the daily chart is we've been talking about the 780 level quite some time, goes back quite a ways. And we've really been bumping up against that. Now it's becoming resistance. What we were looking for and talking about the last couple of weeks was a breakthrough of the 780 level. And then once we get a significant breakthrough, that would be looking for the pullback back into that 780 level, which would really provide us a good opportunity to start getting long. When the market is first coming up and testing these levels, it's going to get rejected a number of times, like you see that it was here on a number of occasions. And then finally we got this big breakthrough on the news, and that's usually what happens, and we'll more than likely get a pullback back into that level, and that would be our opportune time to get long. As you start looking at some of the other time frames, we have a little bit of a bearish candle here setting up on the daily chart, and then we have some bearish candles setting up around the 480. So similar to the S&P, it looks like we might be getting a pullback back into this that 780 level, which would put us right in and amongst the 10 and 20 period moving average on the 480 chart. And you'll start to see some of those setups as well if you look down on the 240 and the 120 charts. So keep an eye out for a pullback on some of those levels. 780 is probably going to give you some of your best opportunities. Again, market's going to be news driven, so it really depends on what kind of information is going to come out of Europe. You know, it seems like one day we get good news, the market shoots up, and then the next day we get some bad news, and the market has a significant pullback. But keep in mind the trend here on the daily chart, similar to the S&P, higher highs, higher lows, just broke out to a nice higher high right in along that trend line. So we'd probably be looking here for another pullback right into this level before we push higher, and then we'd be probably looking to test some of these levels up around, at least initially, that 812 level, and then probably up around 827, and then eventually, if depending on what the news is, moving up to this 850 level again to retest those highs. So things are looking pretty bullish again on the small caps on the Russell 2000. So keep an eye on those levels for the coming 3 to 5 days, and looking for some of those trade setups on the intermediate time frames. And we're taking a look here at the 10-year Treasury notes. We don't cover these too often, but these have really been in a very nice trend here on the monthly chart, the weekly chart. I mean, just all the charts across the board. Just very nice, consistent price action. Really nice here on the monthly chart. Just great pullbacks into that buy zone, as you can see. Good extension away from the moving averages, and then those pullback structures coming right back in. We don't really have any divergence yet to speak of, except here on the weekly chart. But when you get charts in this configuration, they can continue to diverge for some time. And if we're trading the trend flow strategy, meaning we're trading these pullbacks into that buy zone, we can still trade with divergence. We just want to be careful in terms of the lower time frames that might give us a signal as to when some immediate pullbacks are near. But on some of the higher time frames, they can continue to diverge for a while. The one thing that I'm looking at right here, let me get in another line for you so you can see this a little better. Get that line in, same level I think there on the 480. But as we're looking here on the daily chart, nice trend on the higher time frames. On the daily chart, we got a nice pullback and a consolidation here. It looks like a continuation pattern setting up. We've got a nice little flat level here with a number of touches going across there, and we just got a breakup of that 133.9 level, and it looks like we could potentially be going back up to retest essentially that 135 level. So we don't have any reversal structure in place yet. There's no divergence or anything on the daily chart. No divergence or anything on the 480 chart, and you can see that flat level pretty well. We got a number of touches in here, almost 3 touches, and then finally a break of that level. So could potentially be a good long there. We might move higher and then get a pullback into that level. But as you go down to some of the lower time frames, you'll be able to see that a little bit better, and you'll find in the lower time frames these moving averages are all going to be in alignment again and moving higher off of this most recent move right here. So it looks like another move higher for the treasuries. So take a look at that one, see if you like the levels and some of the risk scenarios associated with that, and to look for some of those pullback setups as we break this flat level here. And the last setup for the week here, looking at platinum, some of the precious metals, and platinum has been making some nice large moves. It came down here, and we were talking about this a while back. Hit that 1400 level, moved a little bit even below that, and then came right back up, and then retested that 1500 level. And you can see here a couple of other touches along that level. Created a nice resistance level there, and now we're moving back down off of that. And as you move down to the weekly chart, as you move down to the daily chart, you can see a little better, a nice reversal pattern setting up here. We just got a nice big bullish candle moving down off of that with a really nice bullish candle here on the weekly chart, and just got a break of that high. And so as we look down to some of the lower time frames, you can start to see the The moving average is starting to trend up as you get below like the 240, the 120, the 60-minute chart. You'll have all these moving averages in alignment. Then you can start looking to buy some of the pullbacks. And what I'd be looking at here is to really trade this back up into this 1500 level. And then if we get a break at that 1500 level, you're probably going to see a lot of buy orders get accumulated here to buy the break of this high, and then that's going to take it up a little bit higher. But for right now, I'd be looking to trade it off of this reversal pattern. Again, this is going to be a counter trend trade, so we haven't necessarily taught this in the advanced course, but as you can see, we have some really nice divergence setting up here on the daily chart. This is going to be a really powerful signal on the daily combined with this reversal pattern right here. Got a really solid bounce off of here. So on some of the lower time frames where you have all the trend and all the moving averages moving up, look for some of those trend flow pullbacks into the moving averages, and then you can look to trade that up into that 1500 level and look for a retest of that level. So pretty good setup there on the on platinum. If you like doing counter trend trades, again, not as high probability as some of the other trend following strategies that we do, but keep in mind that we're just looking to lower time frames. We're still following a trend, and we're still following the strategy on the lower time frames. We're just going low enough to find that trend where all the moving averages are in alignment. And so you're going to find that on like the 120, the 60, the 30-minute charts and all that, and then you can trade those. Just keep in mind that you're going to be in those trades for a little shorter time, because we're using the duration of the trade and we're matching that up with where the trade signal is actually setting up. So if it's setting up on a 60-minute chart, you may only be in that trade for a couple hours. If it's a 15-minute chart, then you may only be in that trade for a matter of minutes. Okay, so keep that in mind, but good pattern setting up there for platinum. So those are some of the outlooks for the upcoming week, the next 3 to 5 days. We'd like to thank you for watching the Open eCry market commentary for the week of July 2nd, and we do look forward to speaking to you again next week on the market update.